Hi, it's Marissa, and today I wanted to talk about getting started on social media. So, I often get asked a lot of questions about social media, and I thought it might be easier to just make a video, make a presentation, and put it out there on YouTube. So, hopefully, if you are completely lost or maybe just need a couple new ideas, that this video will help you to get started on social media and get started on your strategy and targeting the people that you really want to be targeting, not just everyone in general. So we are going to jump right in here. And the first thing that you are going to do is not pick which platform you want to be on. The first thing that you're going to do is identifying your target audience. So for example, I'm a real estate agent. So who do I like working with? Maybe I like working with first-time home buyers. Maybe I like working with sellers. So you determine who do you like working with? What type of people do you find yourself working with most? This is a real actual example that I work with a lot of first-time home buyers. So maybe I want to target my content towards them. Like, what do you need to do first in the process? Like, how do you get pre-approved? What do you need for a pre-approval? What do you bring to closing? Things like that. Things that a first-timer would need to know, and like the content would make them feel a little bit better about going through this process. You can also look at demographics, so age, gender, etc. That might help you create content. And then what information do your target audience, what do they need? What do they want? What are their pain points? What sort of education do they need? So example, for first-time home buyers, like I said, they might not know about the closing process. They might not know what they need for a pre-approval. So you might want to offer that information up front, and it'll ease their mind and it'll be really easy content for you to create. And then another thing that you can do is actually create audience profiles. So this is optional, but I think it's super fun. So you can literally have a picture of, let's say, 3 to 6 people, and you can even give them a name, and then you can map out your demographics, like kind of what they want. Like, say this is like some suburban mom, and let's just say she's 40 years old, and these are her pain points. She wants to know how to have more space in her home. She wants to have more multifunctional spaces in her home. So you can kind of create people like that based on real people that you've come into contact with, and kind of group them into 3 to 6 people. And then it will help you create content based upon that. So if you're really, really stumped, you might look at it, and let's say her name is Nancy. You might look at it and be like, okay, well, Nancy, she wants to know these things. So maybe I'm going to create this type of content for her. And that will help you to create things a little bit easier. It can be really hard to just kind of pull things out of nowhere. I do have a video out also about some different content ideas. It is top 10 of my favorite content ideas, and they are very, very broad. So what I like to do is to create sort of like a theme, and then I like to base it off of that. So like tips. Tips is one very broad thing, but it can be for a bunch of different things. Like, you could have tips for buyers, tips for homeowners, tips for sellers. You could have tips for getting your home ready for sale. You could have tips for preparing for the buying process, things like that. So I think that is a really helpful thing to do if you're feeling a little bit stumped, and it is actually pretty fun to do. So then you're going to identify which platforms you will use. So first, we're going to talk about which are the most used platforms. So this is from Hootsuite, and it's from 2022. This is not total users. These are most used. So keep that in mind. And then I would just like to throw out a disclaimer that you do not need to be on the most used social media platforms. Just because Facebook is the number one doesn't mean you need to be on Facebook if that's not where your audience is, and if that's not where you feel comfortable being. If you don't feel comfortable using Facebook, and you're not going to use it, you really like Instagram and TikTok a lot more, then maybe you don't want to use Facebook as much. And it's really sad when you come across like a neglected social media platform or page that someone just has not been posting on. So in my opinion, I would rather you just don't have it altogether rather than to have it and to neglect it, because consistency really is key when it comes to any of these things. So running through here, we just has Facebook is number one, 2.91 million. YouTube comes in second, 2.56 million. Then we have WhatsApp, Instagram, WeChat, TikTok. I don't know this other one, Douyin. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of international ones on here as well. You'll know like kind of which ones your audience will be using. So just keep that in mind. Like the two things I would say to keep in mind are what platforms do you feel comfortable with and what platforms are your target audience on. Those are going to be the most important things to determine. So next, we're going to talk about some specific social media platforms, and I'm only going to cover 6. These are some of the most popular, so we're going to go through them and talk about the demographics in case you are still unsure about which one you want to be on. And I'm going to make this very, very beginner friendly. So we're going to talk about like, what would you post on each and what kind of demographics are on each. So Instagram is my personal favorite. So we're going to start with Instagram. That is 2 billion plus users. And it's mostly photos and videos. They have short videos called Reels, which actually go through an algorithm. And I think it's really cool because these ones tie in local people as well. So if you say like you're from the Fox Valley, then you might get some reels from other people who are in the Fox Valley. And I think especially as a real estate agent, it is just a good way to work things. It's a good algorithm to have. So continuing on, we have mostly 18 to 34-year-olds. That's 61.6%. So if your target audience is falling in that age range, and also it's pretty evenly split for male and female, you may want to consider using Instagram. And then let's move on to Facebook. So 2.5 billion plus users. This is also photos and videos, but it's not so much short videos. They do have Reels on Facebook. Facebook and Instagram are actually owned by the same people currently. So it's going to be photos and videos and also text. You can post a little bit longer text than you can on Instagram when you're posting on Facebook. So it's mostly 25 to 34-year-olds. That's 31%. So about a third is 25 to 34-year-olds. And then there's actually slightly more male users compared to female. A lot of these are pretty similarly split across the board, male and female. So I wouldn't really, let that determine, except for Pinterest, which we'll get to in a second. So let's move on to YouTube. So we've got 2 billion plus users, and I really, really do enjoy YouTube. I have since I was young, and I've always enjoyed making videos like this and editing and doing vlogs and things like that. So on YouTube, you can do longer videos. That's pretty much the entire purpose. You can also create short videos as well. And then there are like the vertical videos that are called shorts. Those are going to be short videos similar to Reels and TikToks if you are familiar. And then millennials trust YouTube more than any other generation. So that's just an interesting little tidbit. And then there are slightly more male users on YouTube compared to female. So let's move on to the last 6 that I have. Of course, there are plenty more, and you can do your own research, but these are the main ones I think that are worth addressing. And I have pretty much gone through. I use Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Those are the 4 that I personally use. And then I just added on Pinterest and TikTok as well because those are some other popular platforms as well. So LinkedIn is less than 1 billion. It is more corporate and professional. You have professional connections and you post on there. It's usually about a third of US adults use LinkedIn. So I think this says 25. I can't see because my face is in front of it. But 25 to 34-year-olds, 61% make up LinkedIn's advertising audience. So that's just like a little interesting fact. There's not as many users on LinkedIn, and it definitely is more of a professional atmosphere. But I still think it could be important for you to be on there, depending. I always think it's cool too to have connections with other real estate agents and lenders on there. And I like to post still like my homeowner tips and my buyer seller tips and behind the scenes. I like to post all that stuff on my LinkedIn because sometimes it can get very stuffy and professional on LinkedIn. And while like all of my stuff is still like professional, like it's not like crossing the line or anything like that, I think that it is nice when people put a little more lighthearted, fun lifestyle stuff on LinkedIn. So that's what I put on there, pretty much the same content that I would put on my Instagram and Facebook. And then for Pinterest, we have 2 billion plus users. It's more aesthetic posts. It's actually a pin your interests is what Pinterest means. And it's about 77% female. So it is actually pretty dominated female. Most of these other ones are pretty half and half, male and female. But Pinterest, you're going to see a lot of women on there. I used to find like what I wanted to do with my nails and like what I was going to cook. Like I still look at recipes, and I like to look at like interior design on there as well, and real estate tips and different ideas regarding real estate. So you absolutely could use Pinterest if you wanted. I know there are options for ads on a lot of these as well. So if you wanted to run any ads. So yeah, let's move on to TikTok, my last one that I'm going to be addressing. So TikTok is 2 billion plus users, and these are short videos. So you have to catch the attention very, very quick. I think that everyone's attention span is getting a little bit smaller and smaller and smaller every single day. So these are going to be short videos. They have to be catchy, entertaining. TikTok is actually the most downloaded app of 2021. It's more popular than Instagram, according to Gen Z. And this is going to have trending sounds and songs. So if you want to have kind of an entertaining video, you might consider putting one of those trending sounds or songs behind your video, or even incorporating it. Like if there's a trending sound that usually they have nothing to do with real estate, but you could make it relate to real estate, that could be an option for you. I know a lot of people on TikTok. So yeah, it's definitely a good place to start. It's been growing so much in the past couple of years. Personally, I'm just not on it because I don't really feel super passionate about it, which I think is so important. You don't need to be on every single platform, or you don't need to be on one just because someone told you you should be on one. You have to really, really look at your audience and who you're trying to target. And I know that all age ranges are on TikTok, but personally for me, what I've just seen is the younger generations are on TikTok. And of course, yes, someday they are going to buy a house, and someday way down the road, they're going to sell their house. But I find it personally a little more worthwhile to target towards people on Instagram and Facebook, for example, just for my personal stuff. So my 2 main points are going to be based on your target audience. Where do they hang out? This is how you're going to determine which platforms to be on. So you're going to keep in mind your target audience. And then second, which ones do you like? Which ones do you dislike? Which ones are you actually going to use? If you're not really going to use the platform, then you probably shouldn't put time and energy into it. So keep in mind that you don't need to be on all platforms. If you want to start out with 1 or 2 and then grow up to 3 or 4, like I said, I have 4, and I'm very content with 4. I have no plans of adding on anymore anytime soon. So I would recommend to start small and keep those 2 main things in mind. Next step is to determine how often you're going to post and where. So personally, most of my content is the same across the board. I'm posting the same post on Instagram that I posted on Facebook, that I posted on LinkedIn. This is not usually recommended, and I can see where different platforms require different things. For example, if you wanted to put a reel on Instagram, but then you wanted to put a picture post on Facebook, and maybe you wanted to do something else on TikTok, like who knows? You can do whatever you want. It's really limitless. But you're going to start small, which is what I said previously when you're picking a platform. So this goes same for your content and your posts. You're going to start very, very, very small. You're going to think about, what is the minimum that I want to start with? How many times per week do I want to post? Maybe you want to even get down to how many times per month. Maybe I just want to post like 3 times a month, and then have those be scheduled posts, and then I fill them in with anything that's happening in real time. So I would recommend starting small. I actually started pretty large, I feel like. Last year I had about 3 or 4 posts going up in a week, and that's not like excessive, but I was also posting real-time information at the same time, like unscheduled posts. So that ended up being actually quite a lot. So now I only have about 2 posts scheduled per week, and then I fill them in with things that are happening in real time. Like if I'm in an office meeting and I want to snap a photo there, if I want to take a selfie because I'm on my way to a showing or I found something funny and I want to share it with people. That's kind of how I go about things, is I do about twice a week. So that comes out usually to about 8 to 10 posts per month that are scheduled, and I think that it is a good amount. So starting small, and then think about the time that you have available to work on this. I usually only take a couple hours a month on my social media, and I do think it's helpful when you kind of have a plan down and when you have a system, because I go off of different themes, and you can also watch my top 10 content ideas for real estate agents. That kind of goes for everyone as well, not just real estate agents, but you can watch that video if you want some ideas on content. But I would recommend starting with a theme. So starting with tips, and then based off of that, like you give the buyer tips, you give the seller tips, you give the homeowner tips, and then maybe there's like some industry info. Maybe you want to talk about like how do commissions work, like who pays the commission, stuff like that. So thinking about the time you have available, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but you want to think about how much time you're going to be devoting to this. So if you can devote 5 hours a month, that's fantastic. And maybe you can work on your strategy a little bit more and kind of look at the analytics of everything. I personally only look at the analytics probably a couple times a year. And I check in with myself on my goals and see if I am anywhere near what I wanted to be at. And then I kind of readjust my strategy if I want to. But as of right now, I probably only spend a couple hours a month on social media. So this is also my third point, which I kind of just touched on. Adjust your strategy as needed. Don't have to stick to it just because it's what you decided in the first place. If you do feel like you need to adjust your strategy, by all means, you can adjust whenever you'd like. And the great thing about this all is that no one is going to know. No one is going to know if you miss a post and you were supposed to post on Wednesday and you posted on Thursday. No one will know. They have their own things going on. So if you do change your strategy, no one's going to know. So it's not like set in stone or anything like that. And it doesn't have to be like on the new year. You can change it in March. You can change it in November. So anyways, let's move on. So coming up with content ideas, we kind of talked about this already a little bit, but you're going to think about what your target audience wants. So if you work with a lot of buyers, maybe you want to give a little more information on the buying process. Maybe you want to give some tips for buyers specifically. Then think of themes that you can create. So we've got like industry info tips, which I already kind of talked about, and then evaluate what did well and what did not, and adjust your strategy as needed. So personally, I have seen that with a lot of my photo posts that are just tips, they don't have super high engagement. But when I post pictures of my face or my team at the office, or a picture of a house, something like that, it gets a little higher engagement than just my text posts. So I just find that interesting, and I think that you should definitely do the same when you are posting, and you need to evaluate what is doing well, what is not, and decide that maybe you want to change it. Because if you didn't get any likes on this certain kind of post, maybe you don't want to put any more energy into creating that. Maybe you want to find something else that works a little bit better for you. All right. My top 10 content ideas for real estate agents. So I also made this into a video. So if you want to see a little more examples of this, feel free. Otherwise, just take a screenshot of this and use it next time you're coming up with content ideas. So these are my absolute favorite. I went through my Instagram and I was like, okay, what do I post most often? And like I said, these were already built into themes. So I kind of just pulled those themes for you. So this is in no particular order, but behind the scenes posts, tips for buyers, sellers, homeowners, activity. So if you have new listings, accepted offers, things like that. Market information. So I like to do local market information on Northeast Wisconsin. WRA always puts out home sales reports every end of the month for the previous month, because they have to get all that data in first. And so I usually base mine off of that. You'll see kind of right here where it says November market recap. There's a September market recap, and it's going through all of the information for that. I also like to post for holidays, information about services I offer, snippets into my personal life, sneak peeks about things that are upcoming. So if I have a newsletter coming out soon or a calendar that's being sent out soon, and then educational information about the industry. And last but extremely not least, I love these reviews. So reviews are such easy content. There are so many things probably out there that we're just not utilizing as content, but they could absolutely be great content. So highly recommend if you have a lot of reviews to turn them into some social media posts. Alrighty, and then probably one of my favorite tips ever, because not everyone knows about this, save time by scheduling your content. So personally, I use Buffer, and that is a social media scheduling software. You can also use Later. That's another one that I've used as well, but I think I'm just more familiar with Buffer, to be honest, and I just like using it a little bit more. And then I have a calendar on Google Sheets, which it doesn't have to be Google Sheets. You could literally print out, calendars, monthly calendars for all of 2023 and have them on paper. And then you can write down your content plan and what you're going to post on each day. But in Google Sheets, I like it because I can adjust my plan really easily. And then usually if I have a post created but not scheduled, I'll turn that cell green. And then once I do schedule it, I turn it gray. So I color code all of my things so that I know what I have done and what I have not done yet. And that way you can put all the holidays in there as well and just be like, okay, I know I need to do this, but I'm not going to do it right now. For example, I think Later has this as well, but for sure, Buffer, the free version, you can post up to 10 posts on 3 different platforms. So I personally have the free version because I don't make that many posts. I probably schedule about a month in advance. So that's perfect for me because, like I said, I usually do about 8 to 10 scheduled posts. So that works out fantastic for me. And like I said, I can always create the post, turn the cell green, and come back to it later. So that's what I like to do. Highly recommend scheduling your content to save time. People will be like, oh my gosh, how do you post so much? And it's like, I just take like an hour or 2 a month and I just crank it out. Like, honestly, that's what I do. It would take me so much more time if I didn't schedule my content. And I do think it's important to mix in real-time content in there as well so that it's not so kind of like stuffy, I guess, and it's more personable. I recommend doing a little bit of both, but definitely getting something at least scheduled, even if it's going to be like 3 times a month that you schedule something. So, because Canva has a free version, Buffer has a free version. So essentially, this is just taking your time, which of course, time is money as well. Like you have to determine like if it's worth your time, maybe you want to hire out for this. But if you do have the time, I mean, essentially it is free. I know that some people will disagree, but essentially doing your social media work is free. You're getting in front of people's faces. You can choose to do ads and you can choose not to do ads. So it's really up to you. Then don't forget to interact with your audience. So this is a big thing, especially if you're scheduling. Don't forget, like don't make it scheduled posts for 5 times a month and then just fall off the face of the earth and never check in on your social media because people might comment on your things, people might send you messages, and you definitely want to check those and respond to them, especially if you're in an industry like real estate. People might be inquiring about buying a house or selling their home and they found you on social media. You definitely do not want to let that go to the wayside. So checking in like a couple times a week at least on your social media is beneficial. So that's pretty much all I have. That is your 25 minutes. I think this is nearing 25 minutes on how to get started on social media. So I hope you kind of enjoyed this class that I have. I kind of consider it like a class. And I plan to put out more social media videos in the future. So if people are unsure, like how to create an Instagram story and how to do highlights and how to do highlight covers so that it's not just like a preview of the picture, you can make it really aesthetic and really cool and branded towards yourself. So I would really like to make more videos like that, especially for all those beginners out there. So hopefully I can help you with your social media strategy by doing these videos and you tuning in. But if you have any ideas or questions, please leave them in the comments and I would love to know so that I can kind of tailor my stuff a little bit better toward you. So thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.